tactical and strategic are commonly used military terms, just like combat and campaign. During World War II, the German Air Force executed countless textbook-like combat missions in tactical bombing, while the American Air Force relied on strategic bombing to directly deprive the enemy of its strength. What exactly is the difference between the two? Simply put, tactical bombing can affect the course of combat, and when multiple battles form a campaign, reaching the level of a campaign will have an impact on the entire war, that is, it will affect strategic deployment. For example, the famous Battle of Kursk during World War II directly affected the strategic deployment of the German army on the Eastern Front, leading to a shift to a posture of comprehensive defense, and the campaign itself was composed of battles on the Southern, Northern, and Western fronts, each of which included countless smaller-scale battles, some successful and some unsuccessful, and required a comprehensive perspective. The difference between strategic bombing and tactical bombing is that it does not focus on low-value targets, but targets things that can directly affect the course of combat. In this regard, strategic bombing targets not a tank, but the factories and resources that produce tanks, not a train car of military rations, but the military ration processing plants. In other words, strategic bombing does not cause much direct casualties to frontline troops, but it greatly weakens the potential combat strength of the troops. For example, damaged equipment cannot be replenished, and a lack of medical supplies reduces the recovery rate of the wounded. This indirect way of weakening the combat capability of frontline troops silently changes the balance of power between the two sides in battle. The above is some superficial theory about tactical bombing and strategic bombing, and in reality, there are also very big differences in the execution of these two missions. First of all, their equipment is very different. Tactical bombers are often more agile, with lower payload and range, such as the Stuka dive bomber, and the Swordfish torpedo bomber. Their characteristics are high precision, and the aircraft are relatively more agile. In the early stages of World War II, the Stuka dive bomber often cooperated with German ground forces to precisely dive bomb enemy tanks, fortifications, and other targets under radio guidance, with a very high combat efficiency. However, if tactical bombers are used to carry out strategic bombing missions, the damage caused by the lower payload of the aircraft will be much smaller, a typical example being the comparison between the bombing of London and the bombing of Tokyo. Although the bombing of London also caused massive casualties, with over 2 months of continuous bombing resulting in 43,000 civilian deaths and approximately 100,000 houses destroyed, the efficiency of this bombing is clearly lower compared to the bombing of Tokyo. On March 10, 1945, 334 B-29 heavy bombers dropped over 2,000 tons of incendiary bombs, destroying 63% of the commercial area and 20% of the industrial area of Tokyo, completely destroying the 22 previously marked armament factories, resulting in approximately 100,000 deaths that night and approximately 100,000 injuries. Strategic bombers do not need to increase precision to the level of meters, but their size must be large, to accommodate more ammunition and fly longer distances, because their targets are often large targets such as industrial areas and ports. Ammo deviation of several hundred meters from the centerline is not a problem, and in addition, strategic bombing often involves a large number of bombers acting together to increase precision and destructive power, for example, in the bombing of Berlin. On February 3, 1945, the U.S. military deployed 1,000 B-17s, dealing a fatal blow to the German Air Force headquarters, the Marshal's office, the Foreign Ministry, the Propaganda Department, as well as railway facilities and arms factories, playing a significant role in weakening Germany's will to fight, and to a certain extent, promoting Germany's surrender shortly thereafter. Although strategic bombing is so powerful, maintaining a large fleet of heavy bombers is not easy. Not only is the cost of the aircraft itself high, but also the daily use of ammunition, fuel consumption, combat losses, and airport construction are not something that ordinary countries can afford, and to this day, only the two superpowers of the US and the Soviet Union, Russia, have this capability, while others, such as the UK during World War II, can be considered half. Compared to the complete conventional tactical bombing capability, This is the choice of most countries in the world. Not only are the use and maintenance of small and medium-sized bombers cheaper and easier to obtain related aircraft models, but also many multi-role fighter jets can now handle this task, reducing the burden on national defense. As for Germany during World War II, given its technological capabilities at the time, it was also able to build its own strategic bomber force under non-war conditions, but the reason why it was so focused on tactical bombers is not unrelated to the strategic deployment of the German army and the blitzkrieg thinking. The German army focused on defeating the enemy with armored forces. According to the tactics of blitzkrieg, tactical bombers quickly inserted themselves with ground forces, rapidly disintegrating the enemy, and strategic bombers, this expensive and laborious equipment, were not suitable.